Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Tato and I am so glad that you are here. Today I want to talk about something that a lot of us experience. And that's a scenario where, there are certain people in your life that you know, and those people just seem to always be succeeding in life. You are on the outside looking in and you are saying, I don't know how you do it, but you just keep on succeeding. You keep on just achieving every single milestone year after year after year after year. You look at those people and you look at your life and you say, I'm also working hard, but I seem to have more challenges and hurdles than success. I keep doing the right things, but I keep on failing. I want to tell you guys the behind the scenes of two sets of people that I know whom, to me, in my view, have succeeded a lot. I greatly admire those people, but I want to tell you the behind the scenes of some of their stories for two reasons. Because I was in their lives, I got to have the privilege of seeing or knowing or being let into intimate scenarios in their lives that to me, I believe contributed to their success. But those things were not the things that everybody else got to see. If these people were on Instagram, which they're not, these would not make it into the highlight reels. Why? Because they are not the fleshy things that we attribute success or to success. But these are the things that they went through, the sacrifices they made, that if you hear about them, you will get to see that you are probably on the right path. I hope that this encourages you and allows you to know that that decision or that the trenches that you currently are in may be part of your success story. So I'm going to talk about two sets of people. One is a single lady I went to varsity with, a good friend I greatly admire. And the other is a married couple who are dear friends of mine. I'm talking about these two contrasting or opposite or different sets of people because different people come on this channel. And I'm hoping that you can identify with either one of them, or if not both, so that you can look at your life story and whatever you're going through and know that even if you are in the trenches, this might just be that thing that is part of your success story. All right, I'm going to start with my single friend. So my single friend, I know her from varsity. When we graduated, as much as some of us were struggling to get jobs, she was one of the first people to get a job. But not only did she get a job, she got one of the well-paying jobs out of varsity. And I want to say that when we graduated out of varsity, she wasn't one of the top performers. She was just an average performer. So when she got that job, it was like, wow, you are so lucky. Not only did she get that job, she then, first thing she did was to build her mom a massive house back home. I truly admire this. And I think this is something that kept her in my radar because I just thought, wow, what an admirable thing to do, especially as a female or a daughter. Fine. This friend of mine goes on to keep on changing jobs, later on buys her own house, but not just buys her own house. She buys her own house in one of my dream suburbs. You know, this is where I dreamt of owning a house. She buys this beautiful big house and she rents it out while she continues to stay in her small little apartment. Later on, she applies for a job and she applied for just a regular job. And after the interview, they decide to give her a management position. Now, if you listen to what I've said about this person, wouldn't you think, wow, you are one of the luckiest people I know, or this is one of the luckiest people I've heard of? It sounds like she's full of luck, right? And to me, I will continue to consider her as one of the most fortunate people that I know. She knows that herself. Now, I want to tell you guys some of the behind the scenes that she went through. Let's talk about, for example, when she got the management job. There were days when she would call me crying, panicking, saying, Tato, I don't know what I'm being paid for. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I have all these things that are expected of me, but I just don't know what to do. And it will be late at night, lying in bed, talking to her. And I remember one of the days I said to her, when you applied for this job, you didn't apply for management position. You applied for a regular job, but during your interview process, these people saw something in you, potential, that they saw it fit to give you a management position. You are being hard on yourself because you want to perform at management level when you were hired on potential. Potential means that there is room for you to grow. You are not there yet. So give yourself the latitude to grow. Give yourself the opportunity to learn and grow into the manager they see you potentially being. Yes, I know it's hard to feel like you are not performing as per the management title, but you didn't apply for it. That's just to sum up some of the things that I said. I remember a few months later, she called me and she was just saying, you know what, I'm so grateful for that call because I was being hard on myself. I expected too much of myself. I spent so many days crying and panicking about it, but I got to calm down and accepted that I need to grow into this role. Anyway, that's the behind the scenes too. Oh, you are so lucky. You got hired. You applied for a regular job and you were given management position. Let's go back to the house she bought, the one that was in my dream suburb. She had this house and she paid it off very quickly. That is, again, another thing that we add to the girl. You are so lucky. You are God's favorite child. Well, 1 year, her tenants didn't pay the rent for more than a year. Like most countries, tenants are protected by law. So she, being a single person who stays in a tiny apartment, had this big house where these people are staying in, and for 1 year, they didn't pay her. This was before she paid off her mortgage. And she had to pay not only her rent, but the mortgage out of pocket. She ended up having to go to court. And as much as the people's property was attached, the value of that property ended up being around 3,000, whereas the rent was around 15,000 a month. That's a whole year without rent, a whole year, 15,000 times 12. But not only that, there was damage to the property when they eventually moved out. And further, they had some utility bills that were outstanding. Again, this is the behind the scenes of somebody who, when you look at, you think you bought this house in this beautiful in this beautiful suburb. And not only that, your life just seems to be working out in the best ways possible. That's the house. Later on, she decides to quit her job and go abroad to further her education. Again, this is the typical thing that you look at her and you admire her. She goes abroad, she gets to study, she finishes her studies, and guess what? She's looking for a job and she is struggling. Again, this is somebody who left the country here, is doing very well, has moved around to different successful companies. I don't want to give different details, but these are companies that almost anybody knows. And she's in this foreign country, has furthered her education, and she is struggling to get a job. Let me tell you something that I will never forget about my friend. That is some of the reasons why I will always hold her in high esteem. Successful as she is here at home, she ended up working at the airport as a security guard to pat down people as they go through those airport terminals. So I want you to imagine that for a person to be as successful as she is in our eyes, to be standing there as you are passing and patting you down, would you look at that person and ever conceive or think that they could have a successful life? No. And I bet you right now, when you go to the airport and you look at somebody patting you down, you won't think that. But I am saying this to say, you might be looking at those people and saying they're lucky and that things are handed down to them easily. But you don't get to see the things that they have had to go through in order to get the things they have. Yes, right now my friend has a good job in that foreign continent, but she at some point had to be the person working security at the airport and patting you down when you were going to your next holiday. Doesn't that give you a bit more perspective? That indeed we shouldn't judge books by their cover, judge success by how it looks like at the end, because we don't know the story. I want to now transition quickly and talk about my married friends. These are people that I knew before they got married. They were renting an apartment at this point, and eventually they bought their first house. This was like a 3-bedroom house in a beautiful estate. Cool, beautiful. Fast forward, they live in a mansion. You guys can't see how big this living room is right now. But the other day, I was at the house visiting, and the guest room I was in is bigger than this lounge. It's insane. And I remember talking to the wife, my friend, the wife, and saying, did you guys ever imagine you could get here? Why am I telling you guys about them? And I'm summing up the story because this video is going to get long. I'm telling you guys about them because whenever I go through something hard and I'm struggling, I remember that story. I've seen these people progress from an apartment to a standard house to this mansion. And trust me, their life is more abundant than that. But something that they always tell me is that, and that I hold on to, is that there were times when they were at their other house before the mansion, when after paying all the bills, all they would have is e-bucks to get them through the month. E-bucks, for those people who don't know, is the points you accumulate when you transact on your bank card. So for example, maybe they will get 1,000, and as a couple, they would say to me, Tato, we used to pay all our bills and all we'll be left with is e-bucks to get through the month. Usually they tell me this story when I'm reflecting on my life and I'm saying I'm struggling, and they say to me, Tato, you may not feel like you're anywhere in life, but for where you are, the house you have as a single person, you are doing way more than we are. Because when we got that house, we did it on a dual income. And after paying our bills, we would be relying on e-bucks. Now, I want you to imagine you being you, feeling like you're struggling. That would be me. And you have these friends who you have seen, and they are living. The kids go to one of the most expensive schools. They have this mansion, and they are saying, where you are right now is better than where we were at your point. Isn't that encouraging? Isn't that telling you that, yes, you might be struggling right now, but your struggle is not as much as you think it is, because sometimes we isolate ourselves in our struggle. We think, oh, things are so hard, I might not get through this. And you look at those people in the bigger houses thinking, I could never get there, because if I'm struggling with this little, how could I even get there? And then you have the person in the mansion saying, if I take myself to where you are right now, you are doing exceedingly and abundantly better than where we were at. Doesn't that then tell you that you can potentially also get there? Yes, there are other variables, but doesn't that then tell you that, yes, you are struggling, but it's part of the story, it's part of the process? There are so many little intimate little things that my friends will tell me about their experiences that would humble me and have me just take a stop and a pause and say, God, thank you. I know I'm struggling, but you gave me perspective. You gave me a different viewpoint, and that has given me the encouragement to know that I am on the right path. But not only that I'm on the right path, that this struggle, this season, this painful part of it is part of my success story. So to end this video, I just want to say that I know that we are currently living in people's highlight reels. They show us what they want us to see. They only show us the beautiful parts, the success stories. But behind the success stories are real situations. And if you get the time to associate yourself with some people in your life that are doing better than you, you will get to know that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are real sacrifices being made. And it's in getting to see these sacrifices that these people are making that you also get to know that I am going to have to sacrifice. I will encounter hard things on my journey, but it doesn't mean that I'm written off. It doesn't mean that I don't stand a chance. It just means that I have to keep pushing. I have to keep going, because this is just part of the story. And on the other side, I will look back and admire myself that I got through it. So I'm going to end this video here. I hope it encourages you. And if you know somebody who is going through a dip in their life, if you know somebody who feels lost right now, I encourage you to share this video with them. Every single part of our life is part of our success story. Respect where you are right now, and don't be ashamed to do what you have to do in order to get there. Until next time, be blessed.